All right, everyone, it is interview time, and we are here today with Taylor Sparks. Okay, here's the thing. Taylor's actually a repeat guest, but we recorded an episode with Taylor a couple years ago, and then it got damaged. We had some malfunctions before we had a fabulous editor and our way of doing things now.
We never told her because we were a bit embarrassed. And then we're like, and then I saw her just at the Vibe Expo and I was like, hey, I have to talk to you.
We lost it.
I'm like,
bro.
it wasn't you, it was us.
It's not you, it's us. And so we're like, can we get you back in the show? So she gave us another shot. So she's here. And it's also perfect timing. Taylor's always been doing phenomenal things in the human sexuality world. But Taylor also wrote a book that we are going to discuss. And so we're so excited to learn more about Taylor's newest endeavors. We just heard that there's a dry spell in the sex world in Cancun because Taylor lives in Cancun. So we'll get there. But first and foremost, so our listeners already heard a little bit about you in the intro, in the bio, but can you please tell us and our listeners a little bit more about how you got to where you are today in the field of sexuality? And then we'll talk about the dry spell in Cancun.
Oh, God, the dry spell, it's almost legendary now. Well, my background is I'm certified in both human behavior and holistic aromatherapy. I had a company prior to my organic Loven company as a holistic aromatherapist. I had developed a line of 16 head to toe care products for elite endurance athletes. So we sponsored, marathons and triathletes and 5 different Olympic athletes in summer and winter. And my husband and I were about 12 years into our marriage and we opened our marriage. We did open marriage. We kind of backed into the swinging thing, started going to events at places like Guido and Desire. Then we decided to do our own thing and produce our own events. And as we produced our own events, we met Pepe and Claudia Guerre, who own Luxury Lifestyle Vacations Travel. They are an adults-only luxury lifestyle, so we started working with them. And after a year or so, they hired me to do a private label line of organic body washes and massage oils for their company, which I did. But when we traveled to different cruises and events with them, I realized that some of the vendors was selling really just chemical-based, not really good, well-made toys, sex toys and lube and things. So when we launched their product, we realized we had no place to sell it because they had a travel agency and I had a skincare for athletes company. So with a little bit of love, support, and money from them, I launched Organic Loven, starting with their 4 products. And now we have, I'm no longer a manufacturer, a reseller now. So now I sell over 1,400 different products representing over 250 brands. And we sell worldwide. We sold to 48 countries last year.
Nice.
We ship worldwide. So I started doing that and traveling to the different events, but I realized that the best way to talk to adults is really through humor. So prior to my first company, I used to do corporate training for almost 10 years in the area of communication, negotiations, conflict resolution, customer service. And so I started developing seminars based on and around the products. So the first seminar, which is still my most popular, How to Make Good Pussy Better, which is one based on sexual health and wellness and explaining the benefits of using organic intimate body products for both men and women. Some of the sex toys are actually sexual health and wellness based, like our favorite toy, the Pulse by Hot Octopus.
Oh, thank you, Taylor.
Well, it was started as a wellness product before it turned into a toy. So educating people on that. So now I have several seminars, not only on relationships, but as well as on sexual health and wellness, spanking, and the sort. So I've been in the ethical non-monogamous community like 16 years. We started as open, backed into the swinging, and then I kind of transitioned into polyamory and kink. And he was like, "We're doing what now? What are we doing now?" He's still like, "No, it's gonna be good. I'm gonna have a boyfriend. I'm gonna have a dom. No, wait, I am a dom. Yeah, I'm a dom. Yeah, I'm a dom."
I'm a unicorn now. I don't know.
Yeah. So I've just been, well, no, I know I'm not a unicorn because I was married. You got to be single and bisexual.
Okay, there
and
you
I
go.
realized I wasn't bisexual because I realized that eating pussy was kind of like licking a dolphin, and I didn't.
So I haven't tried licking pussy, but as
Like
someone
the blowhole of the dolphin or something.
just
No,
this
like
textural.
the texture.
April identifies as a dolphin. She has dolphin skin, by which is funny because we've never hooked up. But everyone thinks that
I
we
don't.
have.
I know people only tell me that I do, but I don't know.
But I'm a non-monogamous, very straight person who is I could identify as painfully straight. Because I'm like, it'd be so cool if I was into the pussy, but I'm really not that into it.
It would be so much fun, and I tried enough times to realize that, no, this is not it for me.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks, literally.
So that's kind of how I ended up 16 years into this community and traveling. I think, and haven't gone back up since 2019 was my biggest year. I presented at 11 different events, most outside of the country. So I present my seminars not only in the US, Canada, Mexico, Jamaica, Europe, South America. I've been just everywhere, having a fun time. Traveling the world, talking about pussy.
The thing about you, I've known you for quite a while from my Fun Factory days, and you're always such a joyous kind of light everywhere. The room that you step into, the space, whenever I speak with you face to face, or even exchanges. I've been on your show, your podcast, The Sisters of Sexuality. That was like a long time ago. And that was,
you need to come back because we need to talk about your book.
Oh, I love it. And I was so excited to hear that you wrote this book because you have been in the ethical non-monogamy route for a long time.
Yeah.
Before people even referred to it, I think, as E&M or CNM, right? The consensual non-monogamy. I was saying this to very smart humans just the other day, and two dudes, they both looked at me like, what are you talking about? I was like, yes, I'm talking about CNM. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, oh, consensual non-monogamy, also known as ethical non-monogamy.
Like you say CBT, and it was just cognitive behavioral therapy, but they think it's cock and ball torture. Love that. I'm like, only we would all know that, or kinky people.
Yes.
Behavior.
Cognitive behavioral therapy is really good for like sleep issues and other therapeutic practices. It's called CBT. But every time I hear of it, I'm less like, sounds like a dungeon. Sounds fun. I want to go to that place.
Have you ever taken a CBT class, the cock and ball torture class?
I've seen only live demos from like Jaylene Bennis and Eve Minax and here in the Bay Area. But no, I've not taken a class, like a whole class.
I took a class, a workshop at a BDSM weekend up in New Hampshire. Oh, New Hampshire, so white. It was. And there was a single guy running around. He's like, are you taking that class? Can I be your like bottom? I'm like, bring that dick on. Let's do this.
Let me torture that dick.
I did.
I mean, I only saw that from the Sexual Health Lens in my sex ed certification during this SAR, which I had to watch some cock and ball torture videos. And I was like, I don't have testicles, but holy shit, that looks really hard for me. Like, and I
know
there's no shame. I was just like, it was like, I felt like bad.
What were they doing to the balls? What were they doing?
They were kicking them. Like they were too hot, like very fucking hot, like model looking ladies. And he was in a full leather mask, and they were just
consensual. He's wanted this.
Yeah. I mean, I assume they showed us the video. I didn't get any of the backlog. There were a bunch of these different things, and they just went up and just like kicked him in the balls as hard as they could, time and time again. And I was like, all right. Oh, I just don't like seeing people in pain because that's just my journey, right? But I appreciate that people
you got to kick some balls?
No, for me, I thought this was even better because I was up close and personal. I took 2 chopsticks, and you put the balls between the chopsticks, and then you put little rubber bands on the ends of the 2 chopsticks. And then you twist.
Oh,
and then you let go.
Like noodles.
And then you could just like
a spinner. Oh my god! What was the reaction when you did that?
He was in pain, and that made me so happy.
Because he was
the chopsticks don't get stuck on the legs.
No, you make him spread his spread your legs. You pull them up. You got to pull them up away from your legs.
Okay, got it. I'm just getting a visual. Got it. I like that. Okay, it's like a sake bomb, but way different.
Very different. Different kind of high.
Okay, so I love talking to you, Taylor. Okay. So
and thank you though for your kind words. I really appreciate that, honey.
I mean, you're just a gorgeous, amazing human, and I'm so happy that you're on the show, and that other people actually get to enjoy and hear you on the show. So let's talk about this journey. So this journey with ethical non-monogamy, how do you personally define ethical non-monogamy and what really steered you in this direction?
Well, defining it, of course, ethical is the operative word. Are you being not, you're not just communicating honestly about the things you want, need, and desire, but are you authentic about your needs, wants, and desires when you communicate? But ethical is really the operative word to be able to say, I want to be free. I consider ethical non-monogamy a type of freedom, but ethically free, because everyone needs to do what's best for themselves with regard to their relationship. We started the journey. We went to hedonism with a non-swinger group. I didn't know about swingers. I just knew we had not been away on vacation together in 7 years without the children. And I'm like, we're going. I had heard about it. I couldn't afford it in the past. We were in the money, so to speak, if you will. I'm like, let's go. He did not want to go. I told him I was going to leave his ass right there in Fuquay Arena, North Carolina, with them children, because I was going with or without him. So we went, and the first people we meet, of course, are swingers. And I'm like, how could you do that? Wait, why are you doing it? I was like, who are you doing it with? Where are you doing it? All of this was, and we were asking all these questions where I was as nosy as hell. And then we decided that swinging was not something that we wanted to do. But when we were back home, we talked about it. And then I decided to look up something about open relationships, which were different than swinging relationships. And I found an article written from the husband's perspective. And his wife had a higher libido than his. And so I gave it to my husband. I'm like, you should look at this, read this, and let's discuss it. So he did. And then he was like, so what are you saying? Because he was afraid I was trying to trap him in some kind of way. I'm like, I think we should open our relationship. And we decided to do everything separately and not together. We did everything because we were both traveling for work. I was doing the corporate training then, and he was in sales. And so we made our list of boundaries, which I think we had 172 boundaries on our list.
172? That's really? That's awesome.
No,
But like a big list.
We couldn't even have sex with anybody in the whole state of North Carolina.
Oh,
I mean, like the whole state was off. Like nobody in the state of North Carolina, no friends, no family members, like in-laws, no hotel staff. I mean, the list was so long, no spending the night, no emotionally getting involved. By the end of it all, I think the only thing on the list was like no animals and no children. I mean, it was...
You were full on. You're like, well, we tried all those things and those don't really apply anymore. So.
It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because people set up boundaries mostly to either A, control their partner, or B, to protect the relationship. And what you really end up discovering is that you don't need to protect your relationship, because no one can steal someone that doesn't want to go. And you cannot make someone stay that is ready to leave. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing you can do. So, and then controlling your partner, it doesn't work out well for the partner or yourself, because I don't want to fleece a grown ass adult. These are our boundaries. If we need to change them, we can discuss that. But to have to control your partner, it just not only does it make you more insecure, because you feel the need to control them. And if you don't think your partner has control, then maybe you should not be non-monogamous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not for everyone. I mean, this just like monogamy is not for everyone. Like, there's not one way to be in relationships isn't for everyone. Some people like to be single people, and so like there's not one way to do your relationship style.
Yes, and that's the thing that I think sometimes being raised in the world of monogamy, especially in the United States, that we're so hung up on what we're supposed to do, mm-hmm. and what our mama said, and what the pastor said, and what the teacher said, instead of saying, "But what does your partner say?" Because literally, it's between you and your partner. What does your partner say? What do you two really, really want? What do you three want? What do you four want? Mm-hmm. But people have a hard time really communicating what they want, because mostly of fear, judgment, and control. Mm-hmm.
And lack of skill as well, a lack of practice and skill for sure. Okay, I have a question.
Lack of time to have all those conversations is what I'm thinking.
That too, but if you can scroll on Facebook and Instagram, you probably have
don't
time
do
to talk.
either of those things.
Yeah,
Guess what? So
yeah, she doesn't have that kind of time. But I think a lot of people look at it as like, oh, it sounds like so much work to have more conversations in regards to non-monogamy. And yeah, there's more conversations, but just like we know with anything, especially with sex, the more we practice something, the easier the skill becomes or gets, and then it's less work. It's just like a natural conversation at that point. Like, oh, okay, so like you go on a date tonight, we know what's on the table, what's off the table, how are you feeling, how am I feeling?
I just got into a conversation, even though I'm not in an E&M partnership, with someone the other day that's single, and I was talking about E&M and advocating for it. And she just was like, I don't understand it. And it's not natural. And humans are monogamous. I was like, biologically, they're not. And she's like, I don't think so. And so it was an argument.
Sex at dawn.
She was like, I've read that book. And I think it's like, there's a lot of junk science. And I was like, oh, damn. I was like, well, why don't you look at Esther Perel's work?
Which book did she read?
Sex at Dawn.
Sex at Dawn by Chris Ryan. And then someone else.
It's his ex-wife, Casilda.
Yeah. And anyway, but it was like and she's a very intellectually, really bright woman. And I saw where she was coming from, but I'm also like, that's the patriarchy, that's the patriarchy telling you have to fit into a box, and your man isn't going to look around or want to like hook up, or you're not going to want to after you're fucking married. No, I'm done talking to her about it.
If you see her again, tell her just to go to Google and put in the history of marriage.
Oh, I will.
Because if you look up the history of marriage, you will see that not only is marriage a social construct, but marriage, the way we know it today, has only been this way in the most recent 150, maybe 200 years. Marriage was, your mother had a beautiful daughter, 100 cows and 200, your parents had a beautiful daughter, 100 cows and 200 acres of land. The neighbor had this great looking son, 300 acres of land and 300 sheep. And when they put the two of you together, those two families not only had maybe more control and power in the community, but the purpose of that marriage was to work that land, grow those farm animals to more, because that was how you made your money. And your marriage was not the center of your world. Your partner was not this. Your partner wasn't even your passion. If you were lucky, you married somebody kind and respectful. If you were more lucky, love came, but love had nothing to do with it, which is why most marriages were arranged, because as we know, love makes you stupid. So they were like, no, we're not doing the love shit, because you're going to be an idiot and you're going to fuck everything up. Marrying the stable boy who doesn't have a pot to piss in. How are you going to raise these children? He owns nothing. Mm-hmm. So, and even the marriages that were non-monogamous, that were religious based, you couldn't even have more than one spouse if you didn't have the money to take care of that spouse. Mm-hmm. You still had to break something. Yeah. It was a business arrangement. And, your passion might have been the stable boy. And your people were like, fine, fuck the stable boy. Nobody cares. But you
people
will
are
not
forced to marry their first cousins or their like siblings because they needed to pass on the royalty factor, the genetics, or whatever the fuck they called it back then. I mean, that's Cleopatra had to marry her eldest brother. And like that was just how it fucking worked at some places in the world.
Things started to change as Christianity took hold. Mm-hmm. And the simple fact that if you were a man of means, there was only one way to guarantee the lineage by making sure that woman only had sex with you. You could fuck everybody you wanted, but you knew that you had to pass down your land and animals and property. She needed to be a virgin and not fucking nobody else. Now, we know there was a chance she did fuck the stable boy, but if she was smart enough to figure out when her period came.
And he was hot. Come on, he was hot.
Sometimes a stable girl, Hey,
can't get pregnant that way. Though. Can't get pregnant.
can't get pregnant. Or only have anal with the stable boy. But that was, nobody cared about your passion. Was the stable boy. You did your duty as a husband and a wife to the marriage, and that was it. But they did have more than one wife. They had concubines. They had mistresses. So that has been more in play than the most recent monogamous structure that was born not only through patriarchy, but through Christianity. But it's not even a matter of monogamy or non-monogamy being natural. the best part about being at the top of the food chain is that if you're one who believes in a higher power, we're at the top of the food chain. That means we have choice.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose who to love, who not to love, where to live, where to work, where not to work, and where our passion is or is not going to be. We're not working solely on instinct like the wildebeest, who every 6 months they travel 100 miles to have sex. And if you don't get no pussy in 100 miles on that time frame, you got to wait for the next trek. Of course, you got to make it back to where you started across the fucking river with all the crocodiles. You may not get it.
Or the fucking penguins.
Not as much free will.
Too, right? It looks miserable. Yeah. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not a penguin.
Oh my
like,
gosh, so glad I'm not a penguin.
I know.
So wait, I have a question. Because I think
the albatross. Sorry, okay, done with National Geographic, but the albatross. Oh, wow.
I mean, all the. So I feel very blessed to be human at this time, like in 2024. I live in Santa Cruz, and so I feel very lucky. And I know a lot of people at this time in 2024 also have a very different experience all over the globe. So, but I'm bringing it to the United States right now because E&M has been all the rage. It was either on the New York Post or the New York Times on the cover. I think the Post or New Yorker, sorry, and even The View talked about it. Did you see the clip?
I did not.
Okay,
I'm down here in Mexico.
Okay. So I only watch on YouTube.
American TV.
We'll send it to you.
I only watch on YouTube. I didn't actually watch it live, but I watched it because I heard mixed reviews. Some people were like, "Oh my god, they were painting non-monogamy to be like a shit show," and then some people were like, "Oh, well, Whoopi Goldberg seemed pretty supportive." But in the beginning, so that I'll reenact it a little bit, not like. I reenacted just like the words. So Whoopi Goldberg's announcing, she was like, okay, so ethical, non-monogamy. She was like this ethical, makes this like weird shame face. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? How could it be ethical? And then the other 3 to 4 women are all sharing their feedback about it. And it's all very negative. One's like, why would you need that? I don't even have time to fuck my husband. Or no, one person was saying, actually, honestly, that could be kind of nice because sometimes I don't want to, they don't say fuck, but like I would like a break so someone else could take care of this, but I just don't want to know about it. Someone else was like, I already don't even have a sex drive, so why would I even want that in my life? It was all just very shameful.
Very shameful. Yeah.
And
then Whoopi at the end, don't have a sex drive, your husband shouldn't have one either, right?
But Whoopi at the end was pro. I thought it was cool.
What she said at the end, because they were like, well, my friends, all these other women, my friends, and she's like, because you're just like, y'all need to get new friends or hang out with other people. What's that?
The View.
How long ago was this?
Like 2 weeks. It was recently.
2 weeks ago.
I sent her my book,
You did?
Oh, well, she might read it.
I mean, she was, at the end, she was somewhat supportive.
I sent it a few months ago. I wonder if that's what kicked off the conversation, but she's like, we don't need to bring her around. We'll just talk about it.
Yeah, because so they're all like, well, my community. She's like, this happens all over. It's not just like little bubbles where people are non-monogamous. It's in all the communities, and y'all need to branch out to new friends.
She got my book.
She got
That's hopefully.
I sent her my book. I'm telling you,
we're giving you credit.
This is what kicked off that conversation. I just wasn't big enough to be brought on the show to talk about.
Well, Whoopi, we would like to have credit over here for Taylor Sparks because
that's true. Because it's true. I'm taking it.
You need a cult following like Taylor Swift, like the Swifties. You need the Sparksies.
Yeah,
I'm a Sparksy. I'm a Sparksy. I'm on the Sparksy train. Okay, so so you didn't know about this conversation.
We'll send it to you later.
We'll send it to you. It's about 7 minutes long, and someone sent it to us. But yeah.
So let's talk about your book, though. So you wrote a new book. It's an African American guide to ethical non-monogamy: the how, why, and where. With and where, how, why, and with whom, not where, to explore. I just wanted to add a where in there. Your expanding love style.
It could be where too, right? Hey,
maybe, maybe she's like in
I
Cancun.
do put some resources in there for the where. I did
perfect.
In the back. There's a resource section in the back about where you could do these things.
Oh, perfect. Because that's actually a big question we get. Like, how do I find the people where? Okay, but first off, I want to ask you, what are you seeing in the differences between cultural approaches and experiences E&M? Because this is an African American guide to ethical non-monogamy. So what are you seeing from your perspective?
So having not only just experienced ethical non-monogamy in the U.S., as I mentioned, I travel all over the world, so meeting people from Europe and South America and yada, yada, yada. And I have discovered that for African Americans in particular, because of our history through slavery and that whole epigenetic trauma that has passed through, our approach to relationships as a whole is totally different than white Americans, than European Americans, than Latinos. And they don't really notice that our approach is different because they don't really have to, so to speak. So when I'm at the resorts, and I'm just going to use swinging as an example, you could be in the middle of a pool party where people are having sex and open sex, even if it's just blowjob. I find that African Americans will start a little something, something, and then they will take it to privacy. Very rarely do they stay amongst the crowd and have sex, even though everybody else is having sex openly. It's just, and part of it is because of that, being around white folks and doing that kind of thing is kind of stuck back here and not wanting to be exposed, not wanting to have the sexual stereotypes that are put upon us. We're the only race that has sexual stereotypes that started in slavery and it still exists to this day. So, and we don't even sometimes realize we're doing it. We just kind of get this ick feeling and it's like, yeah, let's take this to someplace more private. And even if it's an interracial couple, I sometimes find that if it's a Black guy with a white woman, he may be out for a while and then he'll also go to take it, to more private. Is that everybody know, but I find it more often than not. Mm-hmm. And there's a group of brothers called the Goodfellas. They are a group of men who do hot wifing events. And they do it, so interracial hot wifing events where the husband brings the woman to have sex with men. But these men are all Black for the Goodfellas. They expanded over to Europe and they even have Black men from Europe join their group during this whole weekend takeover with the Spicy Mac. They realized that during the pool party, which is, I don't know if you've ever been to Cap d'Agde in the south of France.
Mm-mm. No, but I want to.
Oh my God. It's the most debaucherous shit you've ever seen. But you're going to love it. None of those guys had ever actually had sex like outside, like with the sun on their back.
Oh,
they were all like, let's go to the room. And the women were like, why? We're fucking here in the bottom. Like, they were like, we need to take, that's enough now. We need to take it to the room. They were like, and it was such a cultural shock for the guys to actually just be having sex like that in public, open with the sun on their back, And so, and this was a few years, like 2019, 2018. I mean, they've gotten used to it now, but when they first did it, they were shocked. So there is a bit of a change.
That's so insane that what gets ingrained in us because of lineal trauma, right? The trauma that it makes sense, right? That trauma that has existed for a long fucking time. Yeah. And do you think that that's going to change? Do you think that we can change that with more because of like your book, for instance, if folks read this and are resonating with this message because it resonates with me because I'm like, fuck that. That's not fair. Like if they want to do it outside, people should, even though if they feel shame because of they don't even know it's not theirs or judgment. They're like, wait, this isn't even mine. This is from my ancestors. And right. So
it can change because epigenetics, so you have your DNA, right? Your DNA structure does not change, but epigenetics is it shows, what's the best way to say it, how the genes are expressed, right? So easy way to say is like when you were developing in your mom's womb and at some point as the cells all decided to develop, and they were like, okay, what color are her eyes going to be? Are they going to be brown or are they going to be blue? And the genes were like, the DNA expressed the eye color a certain way, right? So epigenetically, you have the environment and then you have your DNA, and it just talks about how those genes are expressed. So it could be the same thing with, you could have heart disease or cancer in the family. And they've done this scientific test even on twins, identical twins. How come identical twins who have the same genes? Why is it that one got cancer and the other one did not? Because one lived in this part of the world where environmentally, she, wouldn't smoke, she ate a lot of pork, she didn't exercise, all of these things that showed that it turned on that cancer gene in her and not in, let's say, her sister or, her sister who was going to be an identical gene would have to be the same gender. So, but because it's epigenetic and because it only expresses how it turns on and off, you can reverse that. You can turn it off. So any not only, it's not just trauma that's passed down, it's also good things that are passed through epigenetically. It's not just trauma. So if you come from a family that's upbeat and happy and always looking and always optimistic, and that too is also passed along. So it's not just trauma that's passed along. Part of my research was from Professor Diane Stewart's book called Black Women, Black Love, America's War on Black Marriage. And she's done an extensive amount of research from pre-slavery days up through the Obama era, and what has happened to the Black marriage because of the racism in the United States. So it was just fascinating. So I used some of her research with permission in my book as to how these cultural stereotypes have affected our relationships and our sex.
What is her, just so curious about this, what is her research stating has happened in the Black marriage?
Oh my God. Well, like I said, it's a lot. But starting from when African Americans or Africans were brought to America, most of the age group were people like girls like 13 to like maybe in their 20s, same thing with boys. Most girls were married by the time they were 13, 14, 15. Some of them might have even had their first child, but they brought them over here young in their childbearing years. The African families were very strongly bound. So to rip somebody from their home, then bring them here and then beat them, torture them, if you will, and then force them into having children. So that was traumatic. They were raped on the way. They were raped when they got here. They were forced to marry. We were not allowed to marry, right? But they were forced to partner and birth children with some man that was just selected from them. So she talked about how that not only went on for 400 years. So one of the examples did you ever see 12 Years a Slave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I use the example of Lupita Nyong'o's character, right? Who the white master, she picked more cotton than anybody else. You could see that he loved her, but he was so distraught to the fact that he loved her that he just brutalized and raped her and beat her, because by law, he should not love her, because by law, she was an animal and not a woman, right? And then the other character, the woman who was married to her white master, who had children, she went over and had tea with him. Remember, she went to get soap from him. So think about they both were slaves or enslaved. They both were slaves. How would Lupita Nyong'o tell her children, if she had bore children from this white man, how she would need to survive slavery? What would she pass down to them, not only epigenetically, right, but by mouth, what you have to do to survive this, to be an adult, to live. Whereas the woman who was married to her white master, who could come and go as she pleased with a note, who didn't have to work, she had slaves that worked for her. What is she telling her children about her environment and how to live? So those things, so she took it from the days of slavery until after slavery, when all these slaves were rushing to, after Civil War, to rushing to become legalized and to legalize their marriage. Now, if you were a slave and you were made to partner with this guy, you had 2 or 3 children from him, and then they farmed your man out because they could send him to another plantation to work for 2 or 3 years. That master might have said, well, now that you're here, boy, you're going to give me some babies and you're going to marry, Becky over here, and you're going to have some children with her.
And then they shamed the biracial babies again and again throughout time, which was another thing that I can't even fucking bear.
It's not so much they were shamed, it's that they were treated better because the master knew those were his children. So he treated them better, but they were still slaves. They couldn't leave. They were still slaves. So slavery is slavery, whether you're in the kitchen or whether you're in the damn field, you're still a damn slave.
Yeah.
So they were treated a little better because he knew those were his offspring. But at the end of slavery, now you have 2 women and 2 sets of children. But the Freedmen's Bureau were in charge of legalizing all these slaves. The Freedmen's Bureau the agent decided who you would marry. You got 2 children with this one, and you got 4 with this one. You're going to marry the one that you have more children with. So now this other woman was just left to her own accord. As a woman, she couldn't write a contract. She couldn't own land. She couldn't have a job. So most of them ended up back in the plantation, working somewhat as sharecroppers and back in the same situation, even though they were free.
And as a woman, but also as a woman of color. I mean, that's
as a woman, woman of color, she could, even though she was free, she couldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
So, but as a woman couldn't own property and jobs back then. So now, her book took it from there all the way through post-Civil War, all the way through the welfare system in the 70s and how that affected the Black marriage, up through the Jim Crow era before that. And she used actual slave narratives. She used the actual records from the IRS and all of this to compound, how that had an effect on our relationships as Black men and women. So we were already ethically non-monogamous because in parts of Africa, you could have more than one wife. In parts of Africa, you could have more than one husband. And to this day, that still exists, polyandry. One wife, more than parts of Nigeria, you can have more than one husband. In India and China, you can have more than one husband. So, and that still exists to this day. You tell your friend that that's still happening.
And there's I forgot what it is. I think I remember Wednesday Martin talking about this in her book, and it was either in
South America.
South America, and there's a South American tribe that believes that your baby needs to be made of 5 different men's sperm. So you're supposed to have sex with 5 different men because one of the sperms makes up one of the person's sperms makes the head, another one makes up one part of the body, another part of the body, another part of the body, another part of the body, and then they didn't come like, oh, whose baby is this? Like this is so then everyone's raising the child.
The villages baby, because there was a book of, it wasn't Christopher Columbus, it was one of the other explorers who was over here in America and was asking about the children. And he was like, it's everybody's child. Yeah, and in that particular tribe, I can't remember it now, but the woman once pregnant did have sex with all of the men because all of the men's sperm contribute to the growth of that child. It's like, well, how are you going to know whose baby it is? He's like, it's the village's baby. What do you mean whose baby it is? All of our children belong to all of us.
Yeah, there's a lot of childcare available.
I think there were a lot of indigenous tribes, even in the current United States of America, that also it wasn't necessarily. Yeah, and because from Comanche to Blackfoot to, I mean, there are so many different tribes, and everyone if you've ever studied Native American history, you can see that each tribe had their own systems, right? But there wasn't shame involved. It definitely wasn't
the nuclear family,
or the I'm married to one man, because people died a lot faster.
Accent.
Yeah, or I'm married to one man. This is my man, and this is my man, and my kids with my man.
I'm talking from Long Island.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with so after slavery, right? Because Christianity had taken hold, they said to the Black slaves, you're not going to do that heathen shit that you did on the plantation by having more than one wife. You have to have one. Because the Bible said, not only that, you are now the head of the household. That was not an African tradition to be the man being the head of the household. It wasn't, that's not how it was designed back in the day. So, they had the partnership, the wife and the husband did all these things together, but it wasn't done in the patriarchal way that the Christianity designed it. But they forced Black men who had never done it, not only in his own country, but for 400 years had never been head of the household during slavery, to now becoming head of the household. It was just a hot mess.
So I have a feeling because I haven't read your book yet. I would love to read your book, but
we didn't have time to get one.
We didn't have time to get one.
Yes,
I know. I'm gonna send you one.
But I have it. So this is my guess, but this is also a question. Your book is bringing, so we're in 2024. It's bringing many years, decades, even like historical, like hundreds of years, and maybe beyond hundreds of years of history into the now, and how to be a person of color and be ethically non-monogamous. Is that what kind of like what the book is geared towards?
So the book is geared towards helping African Americans understand that ethical non-monogamy is not new. It is something that is in our ethnic and cultural history, first. And secondly, that there is more than one way to be ethically non-monogamous, and it is a choice, as is monogamy. And thirdly, to understand the sexual stereotypes that have been put upon us. So whether you're monogamous or not, or non-monogamous, understanding these cultural stereotypes that have been put upon us so that you could kind of free yourself, if you will, and make a decision that is best for you and your partner, not because there's this big push for polyamory, and not because there's this big social media push for polygamy. Most people I come in contact with, and I'm in so many groups on Facebook, they don't have a clue between the differences. So in my 16 years in this community and traveling all over the world, I'm like, okay, there is a clear difference between them. There's also some overlap between them. Let me explain the foundations. And then you decide, you sit down and have a conversation with your partner and go, oh, okay, you know what? Polygamy, meaning more than one spouse, meaning you could be polygyny, one husband, more than one spouse. So just because you have 3 women or 2 women, in order to be polygynous, you have to be legally married to one of them. If you just have 3 girlfriends that you call your wife, that is polyamory.
Okay.
Right? Polyandry, more than one husband, you have to be legally married to at least one of the men. If you just have 3 boyfriends, preferred way, you're just polyamorous, right? So, and then what is polyamory? And then what is an open relationship? And how does that differ from swinging, right? So open relationships, a lot of times people have a don't ask, don't tell, where a partner gets together, 2 partners get together and go, you know, I am interested in this, that, and the other. And this is something that you are not interested in, but it could be sex, it could be dating, it could be intimacy. And it's something that you don't want to do. And everything that you currently offer to me is great, but I don't want to pressure you to have to give me these other things. Or I don't want to have to ask for less than what I desire because you are not able, which is different than not willing, right? So I would like to do X, Y, and Z, have sex with others, date others, however that works out. And it could be both partners that feel that way in this relationship, or it could be just one. And then they could then make their boundaries. It could be, listen, the key word will be, I have a date tonight and I'll be home by midnight. So she knows or he knows they're going out and they're going to do whatever it is they've agreed that it's okay to do. Have sex, only have oral, or have anal, whatever it is. Go salsa dancing, you know? Because even something as salsa dancing with someone of the opposite sex could trigger somebody in a monogamous relationship.
Taylor, thank you for this really, I think that was like an umbrella way to express what this E&M world entails, right? And I think one of the questions that we had for you, and we're running out of time, which I hate that we run out of time because we could talk to you so long. And this was such a really inspirational conversation, and also brought me almost, I could have started sobbing with tears.
I put my hand on, I'm like, hold it together, Chip, hold it together. Taylor said she wasn't going to cry.
I know,
You're not going to
cry. I won't cry. So that in a whole brings me, because your book obviously can give folks, I think, some guidance to the top tips for if they want to explore E&M, right?
Yeah.
And the do's and the don'ts. And it kind of sounds like you laid out some of those imperative do's, which are the boundary piece, the getting clear on what you are
into.
Yeah. And what are you like,
so
that's
you
a
have
hard no. Right.
Right. So the difference between honest communication and authentic communication is about setting boundaries, not borders, right? Because as Esther Perel says, humans love to cross borders, but borders are
fun.
Yeah, borders are hard, like the cement walls that boat will kind of go through in a canal, whereas you want boundaries which are more fluid, like the shoreline, meaning that you want your partner to make the right decision at the time that they need to, that they believe is best for them. I'm talking about sort of boundaries, communication, as well as even abuse in ethical non-monogamy, like people who cheat. And you were like, why would somebody cheat? Because they're cheaters, right?
Which that's unethical. Humans out there, that's unethical.
Which is unethical. But, I also give resources for people who need coaching or therapy, which is, difference between coaching and therapy. And, therapy is, figuring out how to uncover and recover from what may have happened. Whereas coaching, which is what I do coach people who are transitioning into or through ethical non-monogamy. Coaching is helping people to discover what it is that they really, really want in their relationship. I just want people to do what's best for them.
Yeah. as it should be, which goes hand in hand with the premise of Shameless Sex. And I just want to say one thing, and I won't go too deep into it, but have you all seen Dan Savage's post about polyamory? Has anyone seen this yet? So Dan Savage loves to create new terms, right? He's like monogamous,
like a Sparksy, like I'm a Sparksy for Taylor.
Yeah, like I'm a Sparksy.
But he created polyamory as a new term, and it's not don't ask, don't tell, and it's not polyamory. It's I'm tolerating knowing that you're fucking someone else, and I'm going to just allow it, even though I might not like it. And I'm saying this to people because we're talking about cheating.
I love him.
Cheating and polyamory and don't ask, don't tell are very common. In fact, more common than full-on monogamy, as far as I know, in terms of the stats. And then you add non-monogamy to it. So people are like, it's not natural. Cheating is a great example of how it is. So there you go. And
right,
also,
but that sounds like that just sounds like polyamory. Sounds like you were just creating the perfect environment for insecurity. You were just going to make somebody more, because I don't want anyone that's tolerating shit from me or me.
No.
We're either doing this or we're fucking not doing this. Don't tolerate my shit, and I'm not tolerating your shit. We have either decided we're doing this shit or we're not fucking doing this shit. But
tolerating some people are really, they're just like, I don't want to know, and I want to but I want to stay because they're surviving. Sometimes they're surviving their relationship.
You had presidents in the so Bill Clinton. Okay, let's just talk about Bill Clinton, Hillary. There was some polyamory going on there.
Hillary knew. Yeah. Hillary knew.
But polyamory is No, it's and you're still sticking with it. But
that's an open relationship.
Yes, but you're tolerating. You're actually. It's not ethical in that, like the way
you've agreed to it. Yeah. Because if you're tolerating it, you've agreed. If you've agreed, it's an open relationship.
So it's like a passive agreement, is what he's talking about, and as opposed to what you're talking about, which sounds way fucking better, is like, let's actually talk about embrace and not tolerate. Meaning like
hard conversations. Because if you don't have the hard conversations, you leave no room for growth.
Yeah. Exactly. And then we just stay in this marriage till we're 80 and we die, and then we're just tolerating.
Which is monogamy.
Why do people choose these things, right? Why do they choose to tolerate it? And that's the thing, and not have the conversations. There's fear of loss, fear of rejection, and absolutely, it's survival.
Limited resources.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes they may not have any other options, which I want to honor those folks out there that may be like, I'm in one of these relationships where I'm fearful. I don't know if I can get out. I don't know what will happen. I don't think I can.
So I'm honoring them, but not dishonoring other variations of being in relationships, like honoring all of them.
Having the conversation doesn't mean you have to leave. And this is the thing about monogamy. As soon as one or two things don't line up or we're not aligned, we throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. What I'm suggesting to people is like, have the hard conversation. Come to some fucking agreement. Even if that agreement is, I'm tolerating it, but I fucking know. And these are the boundaries that I'm asking. You don't have to leave. You can say, listen, I'm sex life and shit. I won't fuck you no more. I'm going to fuck somebody else. Are we clear? Okay, fine. I'll always wear condoms. And if I decide not to wear condoms, I'll let you know so that you can then decide. Because I had a partner like that. I was in an open triad. He was married and I became the girlfriend, and I knew her, and her and I were not a thing. We were parallel. And we were like, listen, fuck who you want. We don't give a shit. Wear a fucking condom. Because we were all tested, so he didn't have to wear a condom with us. But he met a new girl, NRE set in, new relationship energy. It was hot. He was fucking her. About a month then, he was like, I don't use condoms with her anymore. He was like, I came to you. I'm telling you, her and I are going to get tested, and I'm not using condoms with her anymore. So what are the options? Leave, don't have sex with me anymore, or make him wear a condom and have sex with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have options. We don't have to always throw everything out. You can keep the things that are good in your relationship that you are aligned with, and only stop participating in the things that you were not aligned in, but you don't have to throw away a whole relationship.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to get married, then you make sure you hit them with the prenup. But I'm saying, anyone out there contemplating, just do it, okay? Don't feel bad about it. Protect yourself.
Or we have to end the show because I can see April's doing the pee dance over here. I can see she's doing the wiggle over here. She's like, oh my God.
Wiggle.
I'm also excited I'm a Sparksy, okay?
Yeah, no, she's going to go pee, and we're going to hang out with Taylor off air for a couple minutes, and you guess what we're talking about. We didn't talk about the dry spell in Cancun, but we'll talk about that off air because we might be seeing Taylor on the east coast of Mexico. Taylor, we want to know more about where people can go find Organic Loven, how they can work with you, how they can find your book, how they can find you, how they can buy your book, all the things. Please tell us.
Yeah. So you can find me on my website, Organic Loven, that's LOVEN.com, and all social media under the same. The book is available, An African American Guide to Ethical Non-Monogamy, which anyone can read because the cultural chapters are only just a few chapters and everything else is aligned with anyone of any color or culture. That book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold, as well as Kindle. And if all works out well, the audiobook will be available by the end of this year or by the fall. And to work with me also on myorganicloven.com, I am accepting new clients for coaching. So if you're interested in you just want to talk to somebody about how do we do this thing? How do I even talk to my partner? So you don't have to be partner, you can be an individual. I am coaching people on ethical non-monogamy coaching, going through it, getting stuck in it.
Love it.
Oh, I adore you. This was such a great conversation.
I
Really, Taylor, thank you so much.
Thank
and there's so many things I want to say, and I can't wait to see you again, hopefully in Cancun, because we will be there so close.
Well, Tulum,
but
Cancun.
we have to fly into Cancun, and then we very well may have a guest sex educator here named Taylor. We're going to talk about it. And to all of our listeners out there, yes, go ahead, look at shamelesssex.com, because we are doing a retreat in Tulum in April 2024. And we've got a lot of amazing stuff lined up. It is for female identified folks right now. So vulva owners out there, check it out. And it's a lot of bang for your buck. And to anyone out there that can't make the retreat because there's only limited spots, but that appreciate Shameless Sex and folks like Taylor Sparks, who really are doing the work and helping people feel normalized for what they want to do in relationships, helping them feel more whole, helping their intimate relationships, their partnerships. And without us, you could not find Taylor. And without Taylor, we would not be Shameless Sex. So go ahead and rate us on iTunes, Spotify. You don't have to write a long review. You can just give us a couple of stars. The other day, I saw a 1-star review that just said gross and not real feedback. And I was like,
I think they're probably 12.
Maybe. And it just things like that. Like, yeah, it's
not helpful.
It's not helpful. And also, I get it. If we're not your cup of tea, that's okay. But
maybe just take a deep breath.
But take a deep breath.
Move on.
And that's okay. There's a lot of other podcasts out there. And Taylor does have a podcast too. And it's called Sisters of Sexuality that you can check out. It's been around for quite a long time. So check out Taylor's work. And yeah, if you haven't bought the Shameless Sex book yet, I'm not mad at you. I will spank you with it though next time I see you. So go ahead and buy Shameless Sex, the book, anywhere books are sold, also the Audible version. And we will see you next Tuesday, y'all. If you're not on YouTube, I'm giving you not a fuck you, but a high five. Ciao for now.